it sparks the innovation. When you're thinking, oh, this is a great idea, and then maybe I could do these other things. But if you let those threads take you down too many rabbit holes, your innovation process is hindered. It can't keep moving forward. And you're both nodding yes, so I feel like I said the right thing. Get another fry.
You crushed it right there. Get some food.
Yeah. Welcome, everyone, to the third edition of our EITR podcast, where we are going to be talking about innovation and how it comes from execution. I'm Stephanie Pfeiffer. This is John Gordon, Nicholas Hughes. Let's kick it off, guys. How's it going?
Are we at the number 3 already?
I think we're at number 3.
Wow. It's a big milestone.
Well, yeah. One with all of us, one with Tom, one with us.
Perfect. Number 3.
Number 3.
Like it. So innovation comes from execution. This was given to us as a topic, and we have not discussed it whatsoever.
Aggravatingly so. I like to be prepared, and we're flying by the seat of our pants.
Yeah. So I guess like determining what that means to us and pulling on those threads a little bit, right? So for me, it basically means like you got to get moving, you got to do it, right? Like, you know, you're not going to innovate if you're constantly researching and thinking about things, right? Like, I'm not saying that planning is bad, but if you plan in excess, you've essentially wasted time.
It
right?
becomes
like,
counterintuitive when you've planned yourself into, you can't predict everything.
Yeah, I mean, even to the point of like, you know, you have people that are maybe your competitors or, you know, something like that where, you know, you've essentially given your competition a head start the longer you sit there and think about a thing, right? Like you need to get started and the target's going to move, right? Like, you know, once you get going, you're going to find things through that process that change your trajectory. It's just the way things go.
Yeah, I mean, there's like a sweet spot, right? Because you have to have that idea. You have to have an initial concept of where you're going. It's just where do you stop yourself from getting too in the weeds, finding too many possibilities, too many potential problems that you just say, you know what? We got to do this. Let's go. I don't know if you've ever hit that.
I've never actually done anything. So I'm just listening.
Being awful quiet.
Well,
Just, you know. I'm sure a lot of that comes down to when you're planning out networks, things I don't know about. But
you know about everything.
you do?
Yeah.
I know
Have
Kung Fu.
faith. Have faith.
But you gotta have faith.
So you have to plan. You have to know what you're trying to do. But if you don't do it, you're not going to know how to do any type of innovation. How else would you do it?
I mean,
I know you're asking me, but Nick's gonna answer.
yeah.
I was talking to her.
Oh, sorry.
It's tough because you're in the middle. You have to like look at me when you're asking a question, but then spin around. Be like, Nick, what do you think?
Nicholas. Stephanie.
That was really good.
Sorry. How else would you do it?
I'm just giving you a hard time. I'm hungry.
Bring her the fries, please.
The water's not going to cut it.
It's not. Sorry, I wasn't prepared. I'll be good. Don't worry.
You sure you don't want to munch some fries while we're gone?
I'm a really gross eater, and I feel like our viewers
We
don't
got to
need
get it on
see
camera.
that.
Okay, I'm going to do it.
I need like 4 napkins to like guard myself. Like,
Are these yours? Are these yours too?
I think they're mine too. Kim was like, you need more food than that. I'm getting a very Danny DeVito vibe. Look, she gave me carrots too.
Don't eat the carrots, only eat the gross stuff. Ew, did you see that?
Shut up.
That was gross.
All right. Innovation, execution. I completely forgot whatever you said, but I know Nick was about to say something. So I don't know if you want to reiterate.
I got shot down because I wasn't Stephanie.
Let's rephrase.
Go on.
No, I think the thing is that like so I'm probably the extreme case, right? Like I'm anti-planner. You know, like I see a problem and I'm just like, okay, go, and I'm gonna think of something real quick. I'm gonna start doing that thing, and if I find out something that I can't do along the way, I'll pivot and try to do something else, right? And like I'm just constantly moving, and I'll eventually get there, right? You know, and I think I'm going to get there faster than somebody who sits for 2 weeks and plans the thing, and then eventually starts on a project. And I'm not saying that my way is the right way, right? You know, I think that some measure of planning is probably better than the way that I do it. But you know, if you don't start and go, you know, you're wasting time.
I'm the exact opposite of you. I like to have a very well-defined plan, but there is a point where we're coming up with a plan and I just can't stand it anymore. We have to start doing something because we have questions, and the best way to know is to do and
it's all
figure
those
it out along the way.
unknown variables, right? They'll kill you.
But I think you're really good about having a well-defined problem. Like somebody says, I want to do this thing. You think it through enough, like you make a mental plan of like, we want to do this, but I'm going to have to do these things to get there. And then when you start to hit that fuzzy area, you're like, let me do the things I know about. And then when I hit the fuzzy area, I'll move past it. So you're kind of a little bit of a planner. I'm a little bit of a not planner.
No.
I think that's why we work well together.
Yin
I
and
mean, this
yang.
guy could probably just be sitting on the floor at this point.
John's in the middle. That way, you know, if you say any anti-planning things, I don't strangle you.
I am the mediator.
So I'll strangle John instead.
Yeah, strangle me. That's fine with that.
She gave me so many chicken tenders.
No, I wouldn't say he is definitely a planner for sure. But he's also, like you said, he's a problem identifier. And like through that process, there's some sort of planning that's needed. But instead of just sitting there, you know, spinning his wheels, he actually starts doing it and identifies more problems and gets through those as well.
Yeah. So would you say innovation comes from execution, or innovation comes from problem digestion? Like you're thinking of a problem and all the different things you could do to solve that problem. Is that potentially where innovation could also come from?
Yeah, I mean, like ultimately at its source, the reason for innovation is generally some problem that needs to be solved, right? Even the things that don't necessarily seem like they're problems. You know, like we have the recent push towards AI and things like that. We have large language models that are being rolled out all over the place. You know, it's not necessarily like, oh my gosh, something was broken, right? That's causing these things, but it's more like, now that we've interacted with large language models and people have gotten a taste of what life with ChatGPT could look like, you know, what other things could it be applied to that sort of like frees up our ability to do different things, right? So like, you know, what was it? Was it JP Morgan or something like that? I forget which.
Thanks, John.
I forget which financial institution recently said that they were going to come out with they trademarked the term index GPT, and they're going to do like a large language model for financial planning.
Sign me up.
And so that's really it's to solve the problem of hey, you know, I don't know a whole ton about you know, the stock market or whatever, you know, individual stocks that I could purchase, you know, looking into their businesses and things like that. I could engage a financial planner, or you know, I could do something that is, you know, a little bit more self-serve, I guess, right? You know, like I'm up at 2:00 in the morning and I'm surfing the internet and, you know, got the urge to buy some NVIDIA stock or something like that, right? Like, you know, I could ask Index GPT or whatever thing comes out. Hey, is this a good idea? You know, how would you handle this amount of money that I have and things like that? And it gives you this feedback that, you know, wasn't necessarily a vacated spot in the market, but it was definitely a lot harder to get those questions answered, right? Like you'd have to do your own independent research. You would have to talk to knowledgeable sources, you know, pay for somebody to help you and things like that. So it's not necessarily a problem in the market, right? But like, it's definitely something that,
It's a need.
yeah, and in these logical progressions of how technology is applied in certain scenarios. So,
One might call that an innovation.
right.
What?
So ultimately, at its source, right? Like I think that these problems or these gaps definitely drive innovation, but what really gets you to the point of having usable things is doing, right? Like having an idea is one thing, but you need to take action on it and make it real.
Yeah, and those ideas can grow into other things, but they could die on the vine. For example, with ChatGPT, I think is a great example. My husband decided that he'd start cooking dinner once or twice a week, and my amazing husband, who means well, asked ChatGPT for a recipe, and it came up with our dinner. And I'll tell you right now, ChatGPT is no Gordon Ramsay. Maybe he swears just as much. I don't know. I didn't see the chat log. But
What was the result? What did he make?
he made basically like penne and a cream sauce, but the cream sauce was sort of weird, and then everything was undercooked because, you know.
It was undercooked. I blame.
Well, ChatGPT gave specific amounts of time. It was like, you're going to want to saute this for approximately 3 minutes on medium-high heat. He was wrong. I'm calling ChatGPT a he because my husband's a he. I'm not trying to assign any genders, but I'm blaming my husband. Don't tell him.
Yeah, it's not.
I'm so sorry,
ChatGPT. ChatGPT did everything right. Probably would have been delicious.
But there's spaces that ChatGPT is not going to fit into, and if somebody that wanted to make an AI was like, oh, but what about recipes? How are we going to capture that space? Like
Chef GPT.
Chef GPT. What a great name.
I think we could go buy some domains now.
Let's go do it. Let's chef it up.
It's like questions that don't have to be answered before you start implementation. Once implementation starts, you can come up with additional innovations.
Yeah, I think there is such a thing as going too far, though, right? Like, there are some things that this specific application are not going to be good for. Large language models are great for interacting with information in a conversational way. Recipes are not quite that, right? Like,
Yet.
That's true. It
Yet.
could be a yet, you know?
Because ultimately what's happening in the scenario is that like ChatGPT is making something up, right? Like it's cobbling together information from what it has, and it's determining the next best word for the entirety of what its output is. You know, it's not a chef in the sense that it knows what flavors go good together, right?
Although if Chef GPT ever gets there, I'm going to be super impressed. I'm going to use it all the time.
It's a great idea.
Like in my pantry, I have X, Y, and Z. Make me a meal. And it'll be spectacular.
I'm saying it's a great idea.
Yeah, I mean that's very specific training that would have to occur in order for something like that to happen.
So would you plan for that?
I'm just saying that ultimately, if I was going to ask for a recipe, right? You know, you can do things like that in a conversational way with those information sources, right? You know, like you can go to a whatever recipe site, recipes.com, Yumly, or whatever crazy thing you have going on, and, you know, they suggest dinner for the evening, right? Or you could just like browse through and find a recipe. You know, the interactivity, right? Like saying, I have these ingredients, what can I make? Is definitely a good application for something that has the ability to do something like that in a more fluid manner. but just coming up with like what's for dinner tonight, right? Like I don't think that a large language model is the best thing for that. And so taking it back to the topic, it's really innovation for innovation's sake or innovation to solve a problem, right? I think that when there's a big push and something gets a lot of heat, like all the large language models that are coming out right now have, you end up with a lot of people piling on because they're trying to make money. They're not trying to solve a problem. They're just like, what else can I throw out there that somebody's going to potentially consume so I can get some dollars?
Are you hating on Chef GPT already?
Yeah.
Can't believe it.
I feel like it's a great idea.
I think it's a great.
I
It at
mean-
least has a spectacular name.
It does. Don't hate on Chef GPT.
I don't want to spend too much
Coming
more time
soon.
talking about Chef GPT because it is coming soon. It's going to be spectacular. But have you guys heard about the Screenwriters Guild and how
did.
they have in their clause that they don't want to be replaced by chatbots or ChatGPT to do their jobs for them? And that's one of the big sticking points is the studios sees it as an innovative point where maybe I don't need writers anymore. And the writers see it as a point as you still need that human touch. Don't give my job to a robot. So
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely arguments on both sides, right? You have the creative people who have created all of the scripts, the movies, the TV series, and so forth to date, which can be fed into large language models. With current technology, those can be used in order to create new things going forward. Is it going to be as creative? Depends on the perspective, right?
I don't know. Disney's remade all of their animated films.
Yeah.
Were you going to say the same thing?
Yes.
High five. Oh my God.
So-
I'll shut
I
up.
love the remakes.
So that's the thing. Like, it's almost like sometimes you feel like Hollywood has run out of new ideas to an extent where, there's a lot of things being recycled, like similar themes, outright remakes of things. And it doesn't take a whole lot of creative output in order to make these spin-offs of things. It's like stamping out more of the same. Now, there's still a lot of actual creative things going on, in the mainstream movies and TV series, not so much. But there's a lot of independent things that still have a lot of latitude in order to make creative things. But the point being that like all of that output that's been created to date, if that were to cease, then we would never have anything going forward that wasn't part of the past. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah.
There's no new creative output going on, and everything that comes out from here on out is regurgitated from previous experience. I don't think that's a good place to be, for any type of field.
I think-
Stack Overflow is another great example, right? Like a lot of people are using ChatGPT to solve their problems with code, find bugs, solve error messages, outright write code. But in reality, if people stop going to places like Stack Overflow and asking these questions and solving the problems for folks and helping out as a community, then there's no more input for ChatGPT and large language models like it. And then what then, right? Like all of a sudden, all of the knowledge for non-AI created content stops at a certain year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think also bringing it back, like we've executed ChatGPT and now all these innovative things have sort of spun off of it. It's separate markets, but It's the same thing when you see a problem and you spin off those innovations off of just that one nugget of information. So I think that it sparks the innovation when you're thinking, oh, this is a great idea, and then maybe I could do these other things. But if you let those threads take you down too many rabbit holes, your innovation process is hindered. It can't keep moving forward. And you're both nodding yes, so I feel like I said the right thing. Get another fry.
You crushed it right there. Get some food.
So I think we're all on the same page here. Innovation is important. We certainly don't want to stay static. The way that we get to innovation, I think, does matter. And the reason behind it definitely matters. So, I think as some general threads, we should be aiming for something that is creative, involves humans, but maybe supported by AI. And ultimately, you need to get started and go in a direction in order to innovate in anything.
All right, so when are we starting Chef GPT?
Put it on your calendar.
I think it already got started.
All right, I'm marking it.
Yeah. That's all. So I guess like one question people might have when they listen to this is like, how do you know when you've gone too far? How do you know when you're in the weeds of planning? Like we talked earlier where even though you don't do much planning, there is that sort of cycle of here are my first 3-4 steps that need to happen, and then it gets fuzzy, but I'll deal with that when I get there. Like how do people prevent themselves from getting in rabbit holes that prevent that innovation?
I don't know. I mean, it's a really good question. I think that the immediate thing that springs to mind is just finding somebody who has a lot of experience with making those types of decisions, right? Certainly between the three of us, right? Like we've all been in that situation where we've had to come up with ideas off the cuff, right? Like we've had lots of conversations with our customers and potential customers on how to do things, and so we have a lot of experience, just what I guess what's the word
called
for it?
Winging it?
Yeah, winging it.
I think it's called winging it.
Let's do the smarter version. How about ideating?
Ooh,
that's
a
SAT
word I'm gonna have to Google later.
Yeah.
What did he just say?
He said winging it.
Yeah, he said yeah. I got it.
But I think that it is like a special muscle that you kind of have to like work out on a regular basis, right? Finding somebody to help you get started, make those decisions, I think is probably a really good pull. Shameless plug for EITR Technologies, but there's plenty of other folks out there that do the type of work that we do. I mean, not as good looking or as smart as we are, but they are out there. So if you want to use somebody else, go for it.
Good luck.
Well, I think there's something to it too. Like, I could walk up to you with a problem, and then you say, yes, you could do that. And then you could also do these other things, and you should do those other things because reasons, but maybe they're not necessary. And I think that's the special sauce, right, is making sure you know where the line is, where you're actually solving the problem, and not doing a bit extra.
Yeah. Not to say that extra can't be on your roadmap, right?
It should absolutely be on your roadmap,
but
as a planner would say.
Yeah.
You fellow planner.
Yeah. Like definitely concentrate on the things that matter first.
Yeah. I want to be able to say when I've actually completed my goal. I want to know when I've hit the goal line. But I also want to know what's coming next.
Yep.
Because you get excited when you're like, oh man, I just did this thing, and I could do this, this, or this. Or I could do all of them. Let's do it.
Yeah.
So.
That's
You're
always
not gonna feed me? It's weird.
That's always the answer, right? Is when somebody says, "Can we do this?" The answer is always yes, right? Usually the real question that we should be asking is, "Should we be doing this?"
That's
right?
fair. Yeah. Absolutely. With EITR.
Chef GPT coming soon.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
I think we pulled on this topic quite a bit. Do you have anything to add?
Just Chef GPT. All the recipes you can want with whatever's in your cabinet or refrigerator.
That's a big sell.
I think we could do it.
You have good luck with that. You and Chris can do it.
We need people who actually know how to cook noodles.
Don't you have a degree in culinary arts?
Exactly. Yeah, I do. Chris doesn't.
You're the perfect pair.
The pasta wasn't done right? Come on.
Okay. I'll make it happen.
Right.
I think I said my piece. I eat my fries.
Yep.
But yeah, I think it's good.
Cool. Well, I think that probably does it for episode number 3 then.
Episode number 3. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for making it to the end of the episode. And we hope to see you in podcast number 4, where we don't know what we're talking about.
Nothing new.
Yet.